Hello and welcome to my YouTube video on brioche. This video is going to cover brioche in two colors, beginning and chart reading, how to work the stitches, and it's in a conjunction with a colorwork sampler scarf that I have a pattern for and we're doing a knit along with. This is the brioche section which we're just starting. We just finished a stranded knitting worked flat. Before that we did some intarsia. Before that we did some mosaic knitting, slip stitch knitting, etc. So this is a sampler of a variety of types of color work, and this particular portion that we're going to be talking about today is the brioche section. This is what it looks like on the other side. It is not reversible, but it is pretty on both sides. In this scarf that we're making, I have a garter edge that runs up both sides, and so I continued that garter in the brioche stitch, so you'll see that. So let's start out by looking at a small sample of the chart for this project. I'm going to enlarge this a little bit. First we'll look at the key. Over here, this is the key for this chart. We have our two colors, and typically in brioche one is called the light color and the other the dark color. So the white box will be the light color, the lightly shaded box will be the dark color. Many times in brioche charts there is no shading. I added this, it just makes it easier for my eye to catch it. Then we have in a plain box, no matter what color it is, on the right side it means knit, wrong side purl. When you encounter this, it means with the yarn forward, slip one and make a yarn over at the same time, and you're slipping point to point, and I'll demonstrate this. This is of course a purl stitch, and this is the brioche purl, and this is the brioche knit. Some people call this burp and some people call this bark. This is a brioche knit two together. This means no stitch. This is a brioche SSK, and this is a brioche knit, yarn over knit, yarn over knit, which makes a double increase. So we're going to follow this chart. On the chart you notice it's a little bit different in that there are two row ones, two row twos, two row threes, two row fours, etc. This is because the first pass of row one is going to be with the dark color, and then you come back to this side and the second pass is with the light color. After two passes you have completed row one. This is called the dark side, that's what DS stands for. And so the first row we're working the dark side with the dark color. Now when we looked at our the brioche here, we can see, yes, this is the dark side, this is the light side. Do you see the difference? On the dark side, the dark stitches are forward, the light are back. On the light side, the light stitches are forward and the dark are back. This is standard brioche terminology. So this is dark side, dark color, row one. Dark side, light color, row one. Then we go to row two. Light side, because you're going to be flipping the work and working on the other side, the dark color, light side, light color. Then we have the symbols for what type of stitches you're going to be working in between. Notice on the very first row that there's not a symbol in every square, and that's because that's more or less our setup row. So we're going to start right here, and by working row one, I'm starting off from working in garter stitch, and I'm starting with the dark side, dark color, row one. So I'm pulling my dark color up to work. I'm also going to be showing you how to manage changing colors at the edges. So here we go. Normally when you're in garter stitch and you're changing from one color to the next, you put the color just used in the front and you bring the new color up for the back. So that's what we're going to do for row one. And then we're going to knit 4 stitches. And once we get into the brioche stitch, I'm going to show you how to do it continental and English, okay? but the setup row I'm going to do in Continental, but you'll understand. Okay, so this first stitch is a knit, and then this is a slip with yarn forward, slip one, yarn over. That's what this yarn forward, slip one, yarn over. So we're going to knit the first stitch, and then we're going to bring the yarn over, slip one, yarn over. So you make a slip one, yarn over at the same time. It's very easy. Then we're going to knit the next stitch, bring the yarn forward, slip one, yarn over. Knit the next stitch, yarn forward, slip one, yarn over. Let me show you with the holding the yarn in my right hand. Knit one, bring the yarn forward, slip one, knit one. Bring the yarn forward, slip one, knit one. Bring the yarn forward, slip one, knit one. Notice that I'm slipping point to point. I'm not changing the stitch mount. And we'll switch back to Continental. And then we'll be knitting the last 5 stitches. Now we're going to go to row 1, the dark side still, with the light color. So we slip our stitches to the other end of the needle. You have to use a double pointed needle or a circular needle to work brioche flat. This is brioche flat. Now we've got to bring the white yarn up. So we're just going to bring it up. It's right here. There's no other yarn to bring up, so we don't have to worry. What do we do? Do we twist it? Do we turn it? There's just the white yarn there. And we're going to purl these first 4 stitches. Now we have a slip one, yarn over right off the bat. Let's bring the yarn forward, slip one, yarn over. But we have a different symbol here. What does that symbol mean? That is the brioche pearl, or burp. So if we look here, we can see from the previous row, that's where we slipped the dark color over the light when we did that slip one, yarn over. And what we're going to do is we're going to purl it. Both pieces together. Then we slip one, yarn over. Bring the yarn forward, purl. Slip one, yarn over, purl. Slip one, yarn over, purl. Now let me do it with the other hand. Bring the yarn forward, slip one, bring the yarn to the front, purl. Slip one, bring the yarn to the front. In other words, you're making a yarn over, purl. Slip one, take the yarn over, purl. Slip one, yarn over, purl. Now I'm going to switch back. Slip one, purl. Slip one, yarn over, purl. Slip one, yarn over. and we're going to purl the last 4 stitches. Now you'll notice right off that we're getting a bicolored garter edge, and that's fine. It's going to work just fine. That works great in brioche. And because we're slipping a lot of these stitches, it compacts the row gauge and it actually matches garter stitch perfectly. So now we have both our ends over here. So we know at this point we're going to start row 2 on the light side. So you can see that we're starting the dark side here. Now we're going to do the light side. When you first start brioche, it just looks like a big, huge mess. It takes 3 or 4 passes, maybe even 6, before you start seeing the brioche stitches. So don't get frustrated right off. Row 2, light side, dark color. So we're going to choose the dark color. When we're on the wrong side of the work, or the light side of the work, for in this example, we take the dark color back underneath the light, not forward. We need to catch that light at the edge. So we're bringing the dark yarn back under the light. You'll need to remember that. It makes a big difference in how your edge looks. And then we're going to knit on the right side, but on this side it's going to be purl, right? Because we just did those purls on the other side. We want to maintain our garter edge, so we're going to be purling here. For these stitches on the edge, the knits and purls, there are right side, wrong side directions. For all of these stitches in here, you just follow the stitch. It's not a right side, wrong side direction type thing. So now we're going to do this, which is the purl, right? It's the brioche purl. So we know that's the very first one. So we've got that stitch with the previous yarn over. We're going to purl. And then we're going to have slip 1 yarn over with the yarn in the front, slip 1 yarn over, purl, slip 1 yarn over, purl, slip 1 yarn over, purl, slip 1 yarn over, purl. Now, you'll start noticing a rhythm as you go along. For example, on the right side of the work, the dark yarn's always knits. On the wrong side, it's always purls, and vice versa. On the light side, the light color is always knits, and on the dark side, the light color is always purls. And I'll show you some other things as we go along here. We're going to do a couple more rows. I'll do the next section in my right hand. Now, we've taken the dark across. There's no light over here, so we can't turn. We have to slide the stitches back to the other end. And we don't have to twist or do anything with this because there's just 1 yarn there. Now we're going to do light side, light color. And because these say purl for the right side, it means knit on the wrong side. So I'm going to point out some other things here. Let's say you set your work down and you came back to pick it up and you go, oh my goodness, where am I? Well, first of all, you can tell because there's a lot of dark stitches on here. You have this dark stitch and a yarn over. You know the last pass you worked was with the dark yarn. So you know you're going to work the light yarn next. And then you can look and see, is this the light side or the dark side? You can see that we can see the light knits, so that's the light side. On the dark side, you see the dark knits. So it's just a little trick on figuring out where you are. So we're going to be knitting these stitches. We're on the light side, which is kind of like the wrong side. Now, it depends on the stitch pattern you're doing. I chose to do the dark on the right side of the fabric. You could choose to do the light on the right side. That's personal preference. You can set it up however you want. So now we see we have a green stitch with there's no wrap over it. So we know that it has to be wrapped. So we're right here. That means we have to throw a yarn over it. So we bring the yarn forward, slip this, and then this is going to be a knit stitch. We can see it was knit below here. It's a knit. Bring the yarn forward, slip, and when we go to make this a knit, it automatically makes the yarn over. Do you see that? So we don't have to try to make a separate yarn over, but when we do slip, we have to bring the yarn to the front. And then when we go to make this knit and take the yarn back from the front, it makes the yarn over. In regular knitting, that would be a mistake, wouldn't it? But in brioche, that's exactly what you want. The next technique we're going to do after the brioche is double knitting, and if you were to do that in double knitting, it would create brioche stitch. That's about the only difference between double knitting and brioche. In double knitting, you'd always move the yarn between the needles. In brioche, you always move the yarn over the needles. So we're going to the end of this row. And so this is how you just make the plain brioche stitches. We've seen 2 rows on the right side, and this is the second row for the wrong side, and then we're going to make some increases and decreases in the next row. We've got, make this last one as a slip 1 yarn over, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to knit. These are knit. So we've done 2 passes on the dark side and 2 passes on the light side now. Let's see what we can see. We should be able to see, yep, there we have 2 stitches, and we should have our green here too. So we're starting to see the brioche. It still doesn't look like much. Doesn't look like this, does it? But it does. We're starting that very edge there. Okay, so let's move up to our increases. We're just going to slip right up to this row up here, the dark side, dark color row, which we have a decrease and an increase. Now this decrease kind of looks like a knit 2 together, doesn't it? It's called a brioche knit 2 together. And this one over here kind of looks like an SSK. It's called a brioche SSK. And this one is a double increase. So it's like a knit, yarn over knit, yarn over knit. You would call that thing 5 increases, but in reality, notice that there's 2 stitches that go with everything. This is kind of like double knitting in that you have the stitches on the dark side and the stitches on the light side, but they're all on the needle at the same time. So anytime you decrease a dark side stitch, you have to decrease its associated light side stitch. Same way, if you're going to make an increase, you have to increase for the right side and the wrong side. So each increase, if you want to make a single increase, you have to increase 2 stitches. If you want to make a double increase, you have to increase 4 stitches. So in this one, we knit, which replaces the one we're knitting into, yarn over, knit, yarn over, knit. So we had to make 4 stitches in order to make a double increase. And you'll see how that works in just a second. So I'm going to work this row. Now we're changing color here. We're on the dark side. When we're on the dark side, we bring the green yarn forward over the white instead of back. When you're on the light side, you take the green yarn back under. On the dark side, you bring it forward. And we're going to knit the first 4 stitches because that's our garter edging. If you come up with a better technique of changing colors or making a nicer edge on this garter stitch, I would love to see it. I'm going to put this right here as a marker. We're going to do this row right here next. So we're going to be making a knit 2 together. And the way that we do that is we have our first slip stitch, which is our dark color. Then we have the light color, which doesn't have a slip over it. And we have this one's going to come over on top of this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip these two together as if they were one, knitwise. Then we're going to knit into this stitch. We slip these two back over here, like that. We put this stitch over here, straight over, and we bring this stitch over the top. So we've brought this column over this column in a knit two together fashion, so it's leaning over there. And we got rid of the white column in between. See that? So now there's nothing for the next two stitches because we used them up, and the next one is a slip yarn over. Yep, it's a slip yarn over because it's a single stitch with no yarn over. So we add a yarn over. Then this one's going to be our double increase. So we put our needle into knit, pull a stitch through, yarn over, knit, yarn over, knit. And see, I'm doing it on the tips of my needles. I don't want to stretch that out big. So we've just made this. Then we have a slip one, yarn over. Do that. Then we're going to have an SSK. So this stitch is going to end up on top of this stitch. And the way we do that is we slip this as if to knit. Knit these two stitches together as one. Slip this stitch back over. And it makes it lean to the left like an SSK. Then we have a slip yarn over. And then we have a brioche knit, a slip yarn over, and now we have another brioche knit together. So we slip this as if to knit, knit one, slip these two back over. The reason you slip them as if to knit is to keep them open so they don't twist here at the base. Put this back over here, slip these two stitches over, and put this stitch back on the right needle. So it's like a knit two together. Then we have a slip one yarn over. And then we've got that double increase. Knit, and watch, I'm working this on the tips of my needles. One, yarn over. One, yarn over, one, and then off the needle. Then we have a slip yarn over. Then we have our brioche SSK. Slip as if to knit, knit these two together, slip that over. We have our SSK. And then we're going to knit the last four. Now let's do the dark side light color, the second pass with the light yarn, so you can see how those double decreases get turned back into regular brioche stitches. Light color, and we're going to follow this row right here, and you can see it's pretty straight. It's slip one yarn over, brioche pearl, slip one yarn over, brioche pearl, all the way across. Nothing fancy. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to purl this because we're doing the purl portion of the garter stitch. Okay, so now we know that this one needs to be a slip one yarn over because it's not already. That's how you can identify it. slip one yarn over. This one we know has to be a knit or a purl because it's already got its slip one yarn over. In this case, it's a purl. We know this has to have a yarn over. Here we are to our double decrease, so the next one is a purl. It doesn't have a shoulder, but we're going to do it anyway. And then we're going to yarn over, purl, yarn over. So now we have all of the matching stitches with that for when we do the next row. You can see we need to have to purl this because it's already double. This one needs a yarn over, double, yarn over. That's a double, so we're going to purl it. Yarn over. We're going to purl this because it's a double already. Now we come to that second double increase, so we're going to yarn over, purl. And you can see, if you look at these, you can tell which ones are the knits and purls. This has to be a knit, it's in the front. This is a purl. You can see, whoops, sorry about that. You can see, I was going to enlarge it more. That's a purl back there. Can you see that? So we're going to slip one yarn over, and then that has to be purled. Purl. That's a knit. Slip one yarn over. That's a purl. Purl. A knit, so it's a slip one yarn over. Then purl. Slip one yarn over, and we're back at our edging. And then let's stop and take a look at this. It's looking pretty good. So let's take a look at this and see how it looks. Is this the dark side or the light side? How can you tell? Well, we can see the full dark stitches. We cannot see the full light stitches. They're kind of down in between, see? This is the light side because we see the full light stitches. Can't see the dark stitches. So this is called the light side. This is called the dark side. This is what it will look like once you get more work going. This is our scarf sampler. Now, if you like my videos and the way that I teach, I hope you share these with your others. I am a master hand knitter. I love sharing my knitting skills with people. That's why I make these videos. So be sure to share them with your friends. They're free to watch. Also, hit the like button down there. That tells me that you're happy with my work. And I love to hear comments from my subscribers. If you could leave me a comment, I would love that. So happy knitting. Take care. There'll be a link to the knit along in the description, and I hope to see you back soon. Bye-bye.